Hi there, welcome to this Sattvic Serenity podcast. In this podcast, we are talking about how to from resilience, move into resilience from resistance. Um, it's a difficult topic for most of us because we think that sometimes we think we are right, sometimes we think that others are wrong, therefore we have to hold our space. But whichever way we look at it, the modern research suggests resistance has a cost. There is a hidden cost in resistance. And that hidden cost is what is making it impossible for us to move forward in our life. See, anything we resist is going to have an impact on our health, on our mental health, on our physical health, and our well being. So, whenever we have this resistance, unless we move into a space where we become resilient, where we become adaptable to whatever is changing in front of us, whatever is happening in our life. If you cannot move from resistance to resilience, it says, research suggests that you cannot have a breakthrough. A lot of people are facing many challenges now, right? So many people have been laid off. And then we are also seeing a lot of people are having issues with even holding on to their current job, present situation, wherever you're working or at home, or even in your friend circle may not be as optimal as you wished. So there are a lot of issues that people are facing now. And that is why we are doing this podcast on how to move forward from resistance to resilience. So I welcome to this podcast. After a long time, we are meeting again. Welcome to this podcast on moving from resistance to resilience. This is just a simple guide, and today we are only talking about the psychological and the um, other sociological effects of this. Next week, we will be talking about how to use consciousness based methods to move from resistance to resilience. And the following week, we'll be talking about how chakras, which are within our system, energy centers within our system, can be tapped, can be activated to help us to move from resistance to resilience. So, consider this as a three-part podcast happening over 3 weekends. So, my goal today is to try and help you understand why this shift is important. Want to explore some of the methods that are out there. And I want to tell you some stories because it impacts so many people. And then I just want you to understand that we do have Sattvic Method Company offers Radiant Circle, which is a coaching practice. We offer coaching for women um, using consciousness based, women centered coaching methods to have and experience a breakthrough. So, now what we want to talk about today is why does it matter? Why does it matter to anybody or even to me if I'm resistant to something outside? First, we have to understand life is the same for everybody. It's full of changes. Every change brings challenge. Every challenge tries our emotions, our spirit, our hopes. Sometimes it feels like, oh my God, there is so much to do. I'm just putting together a book proposal, and my friend John is helping me, and he offered to read it. And then he was asking, which template are you using? And he sent me one template, and I said, no, I'm going to use a different template. So when we were having that conversation, he was saying, the only thing that you do not add in a proposal is money. That's the publisher's part. They're going to add how much money this is going to make. My whole perspective changed when he made that comment. It was like everything I had written so far had to be just thrown away. Not the chapters, but the other things. What I highlighted previously will not work in a book proposal. So you understand, even when we are working on things, new information comes to us, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, this is like huge change. Why is this moving from something that was so simple? I had all these plans to now I have to think of how to present my social media presence, how to do it. See, so life is full of in life is in details, and life is lived through all these changes. And it goes from being resistant. The more resistant we are, the more we will be stressed about what is happening outside, and the more opportunities we will miss. Resistance will lead to stress. It will lead to missed opportunities. Resilience, on the other hand, helps us to reframe whatever is being told to us. It will help us to bounce back, and it will help us to improve our mental state, our mental health, our mental relationships, our physical relationships, our emotional relationships, not only within us, but also around us. So, for example, I was talking to a friend who whose job was laid off during pandemic. A lot of us are in that boat. A lot of us got laid off. A lot of us had so many major life changes during pandemic. For example, I had to move 4 times. um, Jobs were not available, and it's probably happening to a lot of people even now. How to overcome this resilience? How to overcome the resistance we have? Some of these things, like change in jobs, loss of jobs, can impact us so deeply, we even begin to wonder if I am even good enough to do it. I went through that phase where I was just asking myself, am I really good at this? You go through that phase, you go through that. Why is this happening? Right? And it takes time because these are all huge events. These are decided in the spur of the moment. And because they are huge events decided in the spur of the moment, or the impact it lands on us is so huge, it takes a lot of time for us to digest it and to make sense, make meaning, and then say, okay, I'm going to move forward like that. I could not function for almost 4 months. It took me 4 months to digest it. That is why we have to understand, when we are stuck in resistance, we are stuck in the same situation. We cannot change it. If we want to change it, we have to take small, careful steps, gradually expanding our comfort zone. Go on experimenting, go on experimenting, go on experimenting, making sure that at every step we are progressing a little bit. That is the most important thing we can do. in our entire career, if we can handle one thing, it should be how to handle change. Because the more we learn how to handle change, the more resilient we become. And resilience is absolutely necessary because it helps us to bounce back, it helps our mental health, and it also helps building relationships, new relationships, maybe, right? So, I'm going to talk about five main methods to build resilience that is out here based on psychology and based on research. The five main methods are, the first one is to build a strong relationship. For my friend Sarah, for example, when she was going through a very rough patch, she got separated, she was going through a bad divorce. She had spent so much time in her work and taking care of her husband and family. She didn't have anyone outside, and she was experiencing intense burnout. So, for her, the resistance was, I invested so much in this. Why do I need to go out? Then she realized that it's like a bit of fresh air. You are within the house, you may open a door and a window, you may get a breeze coming in occasionally, but if you go outdoors, you get fresh air. That is how she realized that connections are important, connections provide support. And she was slowly able to rely on friends, learn to ask for help, learn to build that resilience within herself, not just take anything for granted. Know that everybody, everything that we do comes with a tag. So, the second way of doing building resistance, moving out of resistance and building resilience is changing your perspective. So, uh, John, another good friend of mine, he was involved in a car wreck. And he is the guy who is like on the go, 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 go from the moment he gets up, right? Till he just sleeps. He's always on the go, go, go. So for him, car accident meant he had to be in rehab. His shoulder had to heal. His leg had to heal. He had never been in crutches as an adult. He had never been in wheelchair. So all these opportunities were weighing him down. Then, after we had a conversation with a group of friends, he realized that this was his self care time. This was his self care time. This was his time to become healthier and more resilient. He began to have conversations with himself, and such wonderful conversations. He started journaling. He started writing songs, which he said he wanted to do as a teenager. Self care. He was able to change the perspective as an opportunity for intense self care. The third method in which you can move out of resistance into resilience is to decide to embrace the change. Whatever is happening, it's changing. I'm going to see where it's going to take me. I'm not going to talk anything about it. I'm not going to react. I'm going to just go with the flow. So let's talk about Maya. She just returned from Europe some things happened there. Business. She not only got laid off, her relationship also ended there, and it didn't end on a very positive note. So when she came here, she was pretty angry, and she thought she could move in with her mom, but things were not working out with her mom. Now she knew she had to do things differently than she planned when she came. She came with the notion that there are things in place for her, but she realized those things no longer serve her. When we had our conversation, I reminded her she had two options. She could adapt to the situation at hand, she could just adapt to it, or she could decide, no, I'm going to change. I'm just going to, whatever this change is going to bring, I'm just going to go with it. And then I'll decide. So one of the things she did is she decided that city was too big, too noisy, too impersonal for her. So she moved to a small town. And then she went to the library there. She met knitting. She met people who knit. She's not a great knitter, but she liked the conversations they had. So she joined their club and she started a business. And when you start something, right, whether it's a business or anything, you start interacting with people, you start helping more and more people. That is how she walked out of her resistance. She's working every day towards becoming more and more resilient. Sometimes this is the fourth way to take care of yourself when you are in the resistance spot. Sometimes you need to do self care if you want to handle stress. I want to talk to you about Alex. She faced suddenly, she just finished, entered her 40s, and suddenly she faced ridiculous amounts of health scares, all of them stemming from the amount of stress she had at work. So once she learned that she can be resilient and she doesn't have to be resistant if she prioritized her health, she began to take better care of her health. She began to exercise daily. She began to eat very little every day. She began to manage work stress better. She began to delegate tasks that she could delegate. She began to take better self care, eat well, sleep on time, exercise daily, cut down alcohol intake. She monitored herself. Everybody needs such a guide when it comes to health scare. So, we have looked at four methods so far. First one is how you can build a strong relationships. When you build strong relationships, you will be able to move from resistance to resilience. Second one is changing perspective. When you change your perspective, you will see challenges as opportunities. The third method is you decide to embrace your change, where you say, I am going to find ways to adapt to this new situation little by little by little. Fourth way is to prioritize self care. And the last, fifth, final way in which you can walk out of resistance into resilience is setting realistic goals. If you are an introvert, probably singing on the stage is not your first step. Your first step is probably saying hi to your neighbor or to some stranger, or even just striking a conversation with somebody you find interesting. Normally, you would say, "Oh, that person is interesting," but you would not go and talk to them. But you will make an effort. You will make an effort to go and talk to them. Setting realistic goals removes stress. It removes all the uncertainties. The only thing that you have to do is to follow through that. So, you understand the psychological, all the definitions, all these things about why you need to move from resistance to resilience. Only when we adapt and only when we bounce back to changes can we stand strong in face of adversity. We need better mental health, then we have to transition for it's very vital for our mental health for us to transition from resistance to building resilience, because life is constantly changing. Resilience involves adapting to stress, recovering from setbacks, contrasting with resistance, because resistance only hinders our growth. It even blocks the opportunities. I will post in the description, I will post all the methods and some more resources for you. Please understand, you don't have to go through all these alone. A lot of people can work through on this on their own. If you are, and if you find this podcast useful, please drop a line to me. I'm very happy that I was able to help you in some way. If you need personalized assistance, whether it is in goal setting or whether it is in stress management or whether it is how to build resilience, how to move out of resistance, please consider signing up for our coaching sessions so we can help you through that. You do not have to go through this alone. You are not alone in this. So I welcome you all to move from anything that you are stuck with resilience to move into anything that you are resisting now. I welcome you to move gradually, slowly, completely become resilient. So you can thrive in the middle of all these changes that are happening. Women centered consciousness based methods will give you time tested tools. It's only thing that you require is an open mind and commitment. With those two things, you will work wonders in your life. This is Rani for the Radiant Circle and Sattvic Serenity podcast. Thank you. I look forward to receiving your comments. Please don't miss the next week's podcast session, which is going to talk about what consciousness based techniques you can adopt for ending your resistance and moving and flowing into resilience. And the week after that, we will talk about how chakras can help you, how your knowledge and understanding of chakras can help you move from resistance to resilience. Thank you. Be well.